Hello young learners. So today we are here with chapter 3, Deep Water. And as you know, this Deep Water was written by William O. Douglas, and it is an autobiographical account of author's childhood misadventure at the swimming pool. And in this chapter, as we read, we'll come to know from the extract that's written here. I have highlighted it. The following excerpt means an extract. It is taken from Of Men and Mountain by William O. Douglas. So please make a note. It's 1 mark question might be asked that from where has been this essay taken. So it is Of Men and Mountain. And it's very clearly showing it out that how William Douglas, when he was very young, at that young age, he was drowned in a swimming pool. But later, when he talks about his fear of water and thereafter how he was able to overcome it. This is what we are going to study in this chapter, and it is an autobiographical part of this essay. Let's move to the text. As we move on, it begins up with the first person narrative. I was 10 or 11 years old and he had decided to learn swimming. Highlighted portion, it shows about YMCA in Yakima that offered exactly the opportunity. It means the pool is a much safe place rather than Yakima River, which is treacherous, dangerous. And as mothers are overprotective, they often tell the children that be safe, drive safe and all these things. So here also the mother gave a precaution that instead of planning out to learn swimming at the river Yakima, he must have preferred going to YMCA pool as it is much safe. And here's the description of the pool is given, that it is 2 to 3 feet deep and it has a shallow end. And so it was 9 feet deep only. The narrator could walk to the pool and learn swimming. So we move on to the next page. It gives you a hint about the map. That's the Yakima River is there. And moving next, we come to page 25. And here it shows that as he was supposed to go to YMCA pool, he had to be in his swimming dress, and that's why he felt hesitant to show his skinny legs because he was thin and fragile. But somehow he subdued means overcame, and he went there. And here again the second paragraph, third line, it shows that he had an aversion. Aversion means he had a hatred, he disliked water. And there are the reasons which I've highlighted, that once again a misadventure took place when he was in California. His father and son, they both were there, and at that time a huge wave came and knocked him down, and for a few seconds he was buried in water, his breath was gone and he was frightened. And the father was laughing. The father was non-serious because the father felt it's a casual moment for him, and that's why he did not take him seriously. But the terror was there in the heart of the child, and that terror of when he was 3 or 4 years of age, that continued even when he was 11 years old. Now we come back to YMCA pool, and here you can see in the paragraph that I paddled with my new pair water wings, watching other boys and trying to learn by aping them. Aping them, it refers to that he was imitating them. And for 2-3 days he had been there, and gradually he was practicing paddling and doing all these things. He was slightly becoming normal, that he would be able to learn swimming soon. So before a mishap or a misadventure would take place, as a normal routine, he went little early to the pool where no one was there. And here the description of the pool is very clearly been given. The water was still, the tiled bottom was as white and clean as a bathtub. So a literary device, simile is also used. I was timid. Timid shows frightened. He was frightened as he was all alone. He had gone to the pool little earlier. So he was sitting at the side of the pool and he was waiting for others to come. And suddenly, as he was waiting for others to come, a big bruiser of a boy, it means a well-built, a boy who is strongly built with rippling muscles and all. He was perhaps an adult. He was looking like an adult, and that boy, he came there and he was there showing his arms and rippling muscles as if he has joined the gym, and he yelled, he screamed, "Hi skinny, how would you like to be ducked?" So it means before expecting any answer, this young boy of 18 years took him up in the arms and threw him into the deepest part of the water. And you can see it very clearly. He tossed me into the deep end. I landed in sitting position, swallowed water and went at once to the bottom. I was frightened, but not yet frightened out of my wits. So initially, the moment when he was going in the sitting position, he was frightened momentarily because he had not expected this. But still, he mustered his courage. He started having a sound reasoning that yes, he had been trained theoretically by the instructor that what steps must be taken. And that is why he made the plan, the first plan. That was, when my feet hit the bottom, I would make a big jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. These were the theoretical lessons given by his instructor or the swimming coach. But what happened? When he went down, those 9 feet occurred to be 90 feet. And before he reached the bottom, he felt like his lungs would burst. And then when his feet hit bottom, he again summoned all my strength and made what I thought was a great spring upward. So second time again he is making an effort. He is making a plan that like a spring, he will also jump. He will take a leap upwards, and he imagined that as he would bob to the surface like a cork. Bob means as a cork, it has pores and it can come to the surface. Similarly, I'll make my body light and I'll come to the surface like a cork. But when he came up, he saw nothing. His eyes were only open and he could see only a dirty tinge, yellow tinge. Tinge refers to the color. I grew panicky, so he was alarmed. And as you know that in swimming pools, you have the ropes, you have the ladders, you have the other things which you can carry with an emergency, whenever the emergency is required. But here, he could not grab neither a rope nor any chain, anything. So he was suffocating. He was trying to scream, but the voice also did not come out. And every time when he was trying to come out, he was not floating. He was coming to the surface with the upside position, as if he was standing. I flailed. Flailed means moving the arms and legs around without control to the surface of water. But the more he did, the more he swallowed and choked. And now he tried to bring his legs up as if you are like a fish and you are floating. But the legs also, they assumed that they were dead weights on them. They were paralyzed and rigid. And he felt some force was pulling him, and instead of coming upward, he was again going towards the bottom of the pool. I struck at water as I went down, expending my strength as one in a nightmare fights. Nightmare, bad dream fights. An irresistible force. Irresistible force means he was not able to oppose. With the force he was being grabbed to the bottom of the pool, he could not control. I had lost all my breath. My lungs ached. My heart throbbed. Throbbed means my heart also was beating loudly. I was getting dizzy. He was feeling giddy. He was feeling unstable. That what's going to happen next? I'm struggling very hard, but I'm not able to do anything to make myself float on the surface. Now, poor thing, he again remembered one more strategy. That let me go down to the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface, and I would fly flat on the water, strike out my arms and thrash. Thrash means strike. I'll strike with my legs. But then also, he could not get out of the pool or be safe. Rather, it was going to be the worst things for him. He went down endlessly, and whenever he tried to open his eyes, he could not find anything but just dark water. And then sheer terror. See these lines? I have highlighted it. These are the lines which are very important, and you must use them in your answer. That the terror seized me. Terror is not a human being that you are possessed by it, but certainly the terror was there in his mind and it gripped him very badly. Terror that knows no understanding. Terror that knows no control. You have no reasoning power when you are gripped with terror, and terror that no one can understand. Only the person who has been gripped by terror, only he can understand what it is. I was shrieking. I was paralyzed, stiff, rigid and fear. Even the screams in my throat were frozen. See this? Even the screams in my throat were frozen. Can it be frozen? The screams and all. See here, hyperbole is being used. And the other literary device could be metaphor also. Only my heart and the pounding in my head said that I was alive. Pounding means beating of my head. It means he was able to reassure himself that no, I'm still alive. And then in the midst of the terror came a touch of reason. So even though he was gripped by terror, but still there was some reasoning power left in his brain. So again he made a frantic effort to do it. But unfortunately nothing helped. The jump made no difference. He looked for ropes, ladders, water wings, but he got nothing, only water. Stark terror took even deeper hold on me like a great charge of electricity. Now you see his condition is becoming worse. I shook, I trembled with fright. So when he has become captive of the terror, and now psychologically his arms are not moving, his legs are also not moving. I tried to call for help, to call for mother. See, second time the mother has been referred. Why mother? Because as you know, for a child, the mother is the most protective person in the world. And so initially he begins up with the chapter, the warnings that were given by his mother, and here also again, thus whenever you are in danger, you call out for help, you yell for your mother, and here also he did. But unfortunately, nothing happened. And then strangely there was a light and he was coming out. And what was coming out? His eyes, his nose. And then he did not come because he was not floating, he was still in standing position. And now he went down for the third time. He gasped for air, he sucked for air, but the air was not there. Rather, he got more and more water, and the yellowish light was going out. And then ultimately, he got so tired that he stopped all the effort. His legs felt limp. So his legs were also unsteady, they were not helping, and a blackness swept over my brain. So it means gradually even the brain, the feeling of unconsciousness, the feeling of blackout was coming up in his mind. It wiped out fear, it wiped out terror, there was no more panic, it was quiet and peaceful, nothing to be afraid of. This is nice, and you can see the 3 dots. So these are the things he is assuming, and the assumptions are coming to be drowsy. So as he had made a frantic efforts, but he failed in each effort, so he's accepting his fate. So now when he's dying, why he should feel afraid? Rather he was feeling drowsy, and whenever you are about to sleep, you have the same sort of symptoms. So no need to jump. Too tired to jump. It's nice to be carried gently. Now see, he's comparing that it's nice to be carried gently, to float along in space. Tender arms around me. Now the tender arms, which unknowingly refers to death, the slow coming death, and now he's comparing those tender arms with the mother. Now I must go to sleep, and the sleep refers to the unconsciousness, that particular stage. I crossed the oblivion and the curtain of the life fell. Oblivion, unconsciousness, the forgetful state, and the curtain of life fell. Curtain of life fell means he felt as if the life had ended for him. The next I remember was lying on my stomach beside the pool, vomiting. So when he opened his eyes, he realized that he was alive and he was saved. And the person who had threw him, he only said, I was fooling. Fooling means joking. But the other person who had saved him said that he was perhaps almost dead. And then they carried him to the locker room, changing room. And several hours later, the poor child went home. He was weak and trembling. He shook, he cried, and he could not eat that night. So much of the fear was there in his heart and mind that it was overpowering him very badly. For days, a haunting fear was in my heart. The slightest exertion upset me, making me wobbly in my knees and stick to my stomach. So he was unstable, he could not move his legs and knees, and that was a mishap. And from that time onwards, he never went back to the pool. He feared water and avoided whenever he could. But as he grew later, few years later, he came to know about the waters of the cascade, and he felt like wading to the Titan or the bumping river. He wanted to bathe in the warm lake of Goat Rocks and other places. Wherever he wanted to go, and he wanted to enjoy the other areas where the water sport was there, every time his legs would become paralyzed and the icy horror would grab his heart. And this handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. So when he became an adult also, this handicap, the fear of water or hydrophobia, it was there much occupying his mind and his feelings also, that he could not overpower them. And whenever he used to see the young people there they are there fishing for in the canoes, or they are fishing for the fish like salmon, trout, bass, etc., he also wanted to join them. In the California, at the Bumping Lake, in the Cascade, and all their places, he wanted to join the company of his young friends, but every time that haunting fear of water followed him. And this comes to be a 3 or 2 mark question also. It's often been asked that why he could not join, why could not he go for fishing and for this boating and canoeing and all these sort of things. And this is the 2-3 line answer, that whenever he went, the fear again grabbed him, and that fear was overpowering his mind, and it ruined his fishing trips, depriving me of the joy of canoeing, boating and swimming. So finally, the man did not accept this forever. Rather, he took it as an obstacle. And now he's very much there to overcome this fear. And let's see how he does it. He knew that it had firmly gripped him, but he made up his mind and he got an instructor. And so finally, one October, he got an instructor and he learned to swim. And these are the various techniques the instructor used. He made him practice 5 days a week, and just because he had the fear for drowning even in a swimming pool, which is considered to be very safe. So the instructor put a belt around him, and the rope was also attached to the belt, and it went through the pulley and ran on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope, and we went back and forth across the pool hour after hour, day after day, week after week. It means the instructor tried to make him reduce the fear, and he was making him reduce the fear, or the fear that had overpowered him. He was trying to help him out by giving him rigorous practice, and he was very much there in his presence only. He was made to practice back and forth and across the pool with various exercises which were soon taught to him after that. And whenever he used to go in the pool, there was the same panic there in his mind, and it used to seize him. But then each time the instructor had the patience that he hold on the rope, he made him go inside the water. The terror would return, his legs would freeze, but still he made him do these exercises every day. So gradually, within 3 months, the tension began to slack. Slack refers to reduce or less. And then the other ways were also taught. That was to put his face in water and exhale, and then inhale, and in bits and parts he was given a number of exercises. And you can see the next paragraph, it has that he taught him to kick with the legs, and for weeks I did just that. Initially, when he was making use of his legs did not work. If you remember that he felt that as if some weights were tied to him. But here also initially the legs were not moving, but gradually as he was putting his legs, they slowly relaxed. And finally he was able to command them, and he could thrash the water with the help of his legs also. Thus, piece by piece, he was built into a swimmer. And when he was able to do each piece perfectly through exercises, the instructor put them into one integrated whole. And in the month of April, he began in the month of October, and in the month of April he said, now you can swim. And so under the presence of the instructor, he dived off, he swam the length of the pool, and he used all the technique, crawling, etc. And he did that stroke, and he showed that yes, he had learned swimming properly, and there was no chance of drowning now. I did, the instructor finished. But as his training was over, but he was not satisfied. So even when the instructor had left him, he wanted to give challenges to himself. And so wherever the water bodies were there, he used to go there. And the tiny vestiges of the old terror would return, but now he was there to face them. He was giving himself a challenge. And he would frown at the terror, and he would say, as if a terror is a person. So he's personifying terror, and he's saying as if he's talking to a person. Trying to scare me? Well, here's to you, look. And off I would go to another length of pool. So he kept on practicing hard, sincerely. And this went on to July. And now again he went to other lakes. For example, he went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at Triggs Island, swam 2 miles across the lake to Swampacke Island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, backstroke, all these different type of strokes he did. And now he is taking a challenge also, that he goes to one of the lake, and in the middle of the lake where the water is the deepest, I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned in miniature. So when he is peeping inside the water and is trying to feel that am I feeling scared, and at that time see so much of confidence he had gained through practice that he laughed and said, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me?" It fled and I swam on. But still he did not give up. Now he is giving more difficult challenges. Now he hurried, in the next paragraph you can see, he hurried west, went up to the Teton, to Conrad Meadows, up to the Conrad Creek Trail, to the Mead Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of the warm lake. And there also he camped there, and in the morning, as it's the name, just as the Dung Corcoran, it's the professional swimmer who used to do it. It means this professional swimmer, he used to swim. He used to swim backward, as well as he would go again back in the fourth. And so he used to do twice a number of times. He would go from one shore to the other and back. And this he would do twice. So William Douglas imitated the same to overcome his fear that if Doug Corcoran can do it, why can't I? And successfully he did it. So he shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. So in this way he was able to establish that he also had become a good swimmer now. Now the concluding part. This experience had a deep meaning for me. And as he's giving his own example, who had been a captive, who had been victimized by this stark terror, now he had conquered it, so he was able to speak, he was able to express it better. And so he himself says that in death there is peace. You don't have to do anything. He even refers the name of his friend, the US President, Franklin Roosevelt, when he says, all we have to fear is fear itself. So the point is that we have to keep in the mind that we do not allow any type of fear to overpower, to make us captive. We should fight with our fears, and this he is able to establish, that how he was able to overcome by the point that he had the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. The will to live somehow grew in intensity. Finally, William Douglas learned to live life to its fullest without fears.